All right, well, we're looking at our second little video for the Church of Sardis from Revelation. And this one is going to be about the kind of just a little historical background of this city, which is it's pretty unique. Of all the cities, I think this one has some really amazing things. It was involved in a lot. So let's look at it. Now, this is the overall view of the seven churches in Revelation. We looked about those. I highlighted this little area and then enlarged it so that you can see where Sardis is. Now, we said that this area had a rich history. It was the capital of an empire called Lydia. This is a picture of Lydia. Lydia ruled and dominated the area for a long time, almost 800 years, from 1200 BC to 546 BC. Lydia was a very powerful nation, and Sardis was the capital of it. So if we went back to this picture, if I highlighted that little part in, that would be kind of where the region of Lydia would have been. Relatively speaking. Now, this is another shot. This is part of the fortress that was up on the Acropolis. And this is where we'll see where these leaders over and over again have gone up there thinking that they were safe and did not watch for invading armies. Now, this area had an incredible rich history in mythology even. And so one of the mythological kings or rulers of this area was a guy named Tantalus, in which we're going to see is where we get the word to tantalize. Anyway, what it was with this guy is he was a friend of the gods. He was kind of a titan, which means half god, half human, which if you know Genesis 6 is a description of what all mythology is now. And that's right, Maddie. Now, I want to just stress that this might sound weird, and you're free to disagree with this if you want to, but I believe that mythology, the majority of mythology, has a kernel of truth in it. That it is that the truth is the Bible, and that these stories, these mythological stories, are where people have taken it, and usually it's through Satan or whatever, to take it and twist it to show a different side of it in what the people wanted to see. That's why there's a lot of similarities, like the biblical flood. There's a lot of different ancient myths about a worldwide flood, and they have a lot of similarities to the Genesis account, but there's a lot of differences as well. And it's because Satan takes those things and manipulates a little bit just to distract you. But anyway, that's my opinion. You'll see as we go through that there's some things in here that I believe kind of tie to some of the biblical stories. Now, he is in legend as the son of Zeus, but he's also, and I can't pronounce this, I should have looked at it, Tmolus. Anyway, this is the name of the mountain range that Sardis Acropolis was from. But anyway, this guy Tantalus was punished for a couple of things, different mythological stories or whatever. You have different aspects to it, but basically what he did is, number one here, he abused his divine favor in revealing mortals the secrets he had learned in heaven. Now, I just want to tell you that this is what Satan's main thing is. He wants to distract us from worshiping God by trying to show us and saying that you can be God by the secrets. And this, again, Gnosticism is a big thing. It used to be, and it still is, but it was much more prevalent or out there, where people thought that you could learn your way to be saved and get into heaven. That it was that going to heaven was all about knowledge. But anyway, because of this, and the third one it is, he stole the foods of the god and gave it to his mortal friends. But either way, he had stolen something from the gods, whether it was knowledge or this divine food, and given it to the mortals. The other thing that the myths will talk about is how he killed his son, Pelops, and tried to serve them. He tried to cook his son and serve it to the gods to test their powers of observation. And they caught him. And because of this, he was banished to a place called Tartarus, and it's named after him. And in this area, what it is this is where we get the word to tantalize. He is in this river, and over him is a tree with fruit. As he reaches to grab the fruit, it would just get out of his reach. And as he tries to drink the water would recede just out of the way of his mouth. So he was constantly around things he desired, but they were just out of reach. And this is my opinion of what we call in the general category hell is. That hell is going to be where we are just going to suffer this. We are alone, and everything we want is just going to be out of reach. This is, again, very similar to the story in Luke of Lazarus and the dead beggar, the rich man and Lazarus, where he's just out of reach, and just dip your finger into the water and cool my tongue, right? Now, if you're thinking that I'm getting too far out of the Bible, I just want to add in here that Tartarus is in the Bible, right? So 2 Peter 2:4-5, for God did not spare the angels who sinned, but cast them down to hell and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved for judgment. And did not spare the ancient world, but saved Noah, one of 8 people, the preacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood on the world of the ungodly. Well, this statement here, cast them down to hell, it is the word tataro, which comes from Tartarus. And if we look a little bit more at the word study of it, you'll see that there's a lot to this. And this isn't anti-biblical. I do believe, as I said, that this is part of mythology where they have taken this and kind of twisted it. But it's still, I think this is part of what the underworld and what we call hell is. Anyway, this is where that word comes from, in the area of Sardis, one of the kings of Sardis. And again, this is, as it says here, this is in Greek mythology where the Titans were sent, and that's what I was saying, that Tartarus is kind of a Titan. And this is the idea of torture. Everything we want is just out of our reach. Now, there was another mythological king that most people have heard of and know where it comes from. Not a lot of people would know Tartarus, and tantalize, but a lot of people have heard this king, King Midas. And there's a story I won't get into about King Midas and his big ears here, his donkey ears here. But the big thing about King Midas is that he was this super rich king, and he helped a god, and small g, and was given a wish. So if you look at the Britannica Encyclopedia, it says, according to myth, Midas found the wandering Silenus, the satyr and companion of the god Dionysus. Now this god here is the god of wine and revelry and just all kinds of shenanigans, I guess. For his kind treatment to Silenus, Midas was rewarded by Dionysus with a wish. The king wished that all he touched might turn to gold, but when his food became gold, he nearly starved to death as a result. He realized his error. Now, when he realized it, he goes back to this god, and the god says, all right, go bathe in the river Paculos. All right? And as you see, it says near Sardis in modern-day Turkey. An action which the presence of alluvian gold in the stream is attributed. Now, this area, if I look at the picture of the Acropolis, there is a river that runs by here, and it was loaded with gold back in the early BC era. And this is where this idea of Midas came from. But there was an actual king that lived there, and his name was King Croesus. And he was one of the richest men in the world because of the gold that he found in this river. As a matter of fact, this picture is from another picture, and if you followed this, this would be water that he's pouring out, and it was turning to gold. This area was super wealthy, and King Croesus, is known for ultimate wealth. It might not be as big of a saying today, but be rich as Croesus. If you've watched the movie Tombstone, that's what Wyatt Earp says. He's going to be rich as Croesus. Now, Croesus again was a real king, and because of this, and they found a way to metallurgically to make this gold incredibly pure. And so coins from this area were considered the best. Now, there were a few areas that were starting to print coins, but this area put coinage on the map. That's one of their big claims to fame. They were called Lydian coins, and it was really from Sardis, and they were the envy of all the world because they could make this gold to be incredibly pure. Now again, this area where King Croesus was, the Sardis, is the empire. Now, if we look and see about this same time, so Lydia was between 1200 to 500 BC. Now, 1200 early on, this is going to be the area of the judges. Now, about 500, we're talking about the Assyrian captivity of the northern kingdom, and then Babylon is going to take over the southern kingdom of Judah. So we've got all this going on in the area of Israel. And so if we kind of step back and look, we see that during this time, this is when the Babylonian Empire was really taken hold, and this is when Daniel and his companions get taken from Judah back to Babylon, and all of that's going on. And then that's King Nebuchadnezzar. But then if you know the story, Nebuchadnezzar's grandson, Belshazzar, is given a party, and again thinks that Babylon is unpregnable. There's no way that it can fall. And while he's given a party, it gets captured. It gets captured actually without a battle, because again, part of the story of this letter to this church is that you get overconfident in your wealth, you get overconfident and oversecure in your position and think that nothing can happen to you. And they get overtaken like a thief in the night. This is the story of the handwriting on the wall. But who takes over? Who comes in and captures them? Now again, Lydia is right up here, so just to give you a reference. So who comes and captures them? The Babylonians, or the Medo-Persians, I'm sorry. The Medo-Persians capture the Babylonians. And in the process, they start expanding outward, and you'll see that they take over the area of Lydia. And so as they are coming up, they look and they see that that this King Croesus has retreated back, and he is up in this Acropolis. And King Croesus is loving life. He thinks that these people can't do anything to him. They can't get him. I mean, you look at some of these. I mean, how could you get to that? This is some of the walls on there. They just became so self-reliant on that they did not think that anybody could take them. There was only really one way to get there, because that river surrounded three sides of that entire Acropolis. And so they only really had to defend one side, or so they thought. And this, again, you can see, someone would have to scale this wall to get up there. I mean, who could do that? Well, what happens is King Cyrus, as he is surrounding the city, they try to figure out for about 3 days how to capture the city. And as they're looking at it, they find over one night one of these Lydian soldiers drops their helmet, and it drops down through here, and that soldier follows a kind of a hidden footpath to go get his helmet, and some of Cyrus's army sees that. They scale the wall and they take over the city without a battle. It is one of the major thief in the night stories. But the thing is, this isn't the only one. This is just one of several. The Cimmerians in the 7th century, the Persians in the 6th century, the Athenians in the 5th century, Antiochus III the Great on the 3rd century, and finally Alexander the Great in 334, which turns it into a Greek city. But every time the city thinks that it is safe. And so the city itself kind of has this air of unguarded walls, of all show and no go, all fake works, all trusting in material things and overlooking things, over security. Thinking that, and I hate to say it like this, once saved, always saved, so they no longer have to guard the walls. The thing to say to these people that are standing guard on the walls up here is to remember, these people here, remember to stay vigilant, keep watch, or we will come to you as a thief in the night. So the background of this city is all about overindulgence. It is about forgetting where your safety truly comes from. The name of the Lord is a high and mighty tower. The just will run to it and be saved. As Jesus is saying as he's going into the city, he's weeping over Jerusalem, says, "Oh, how I'd like to take you under my wings like a chicken does the hens." And those are all saying that when you submit to God and you say, "You are my strong and mighty tower, you are my security," you trust God. But unfortunately, you start trusting other things as a general rule, and we forget to guard our walls. And the enemy will overtake us. And as Jesus says, if we're not guarding, he's going to come as a thief in the night. And we have to be on guard. So that's the background kind of the history of this. I think it's pretty interesting. I try to limit what I said on here, but I hope that y'all found it interesting, and look forward to really getting with y'all and starting to look at the letter to this church. And I will leave you with a picture of the Acropolis. And this, by the way, this was a temple of Athena. Again, Athena, as you see, Ephesus, also in Pergamum. There's, the temple of Athena. You'll see is in many of the churches we've looked at.